Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the HLTV recap show presented by GG.BET. It's the third day of the Legend stage. There's 12 teams locked in best-of-3 series play today for a chance to move forward or to go home a little bit early. 3 teams move on, 3 teams go home. It's the pointy end of the stick. Let's take a look at today's schedule. There's a lot of big names facing the prospect of heading home early today. Vitality, G2, Cloud9, and Imperial all staring down the barrel of elimination. A lot of big names, a lot of big hopes and dreams in a lot of those organizations. ENCE and Heroic clash an underrated head-to-head spot for a place in the champion stage. 6 series were played today. 5 of them went the distance. That means we got 17 maps to get through, so we've trimmed out all the fat from the show and can dive right into the action. Elimination matches up first as always. Vitality began their climb out of the 0-2 hole yesterday with a win over Liquid. They drew an up and down big squad today. Big has hit a bit of a roadblock here in the Legend stage. These 2 teams would clash for a series that lasted over 4 hours. First map Mirage was merely an appetizer. By the end of the series, you might even forget it was even played. It was a 16 win for Vitality, nothing too crazy to go over. We'd move quickly on to Vertigo after map 1. FaZe and Searson would have an incredible series today. 76 kills on FaZe, 70 on Searson. This was a map of offenses. Big would have a 9-0 run on their T side, while Vitality matched that with a 10-1 streak of their own on offense, but it wasn't enough to win in regulation. It took double overtime to get there, and despite the best efforts of Dupree with 31 frags on the map, Vitality succumbed 19-22. Third map decider is Nuke, and if you're going to have one of the best players in the world on your roster, elimination game at the major is where you want him to go nuclear. ZywOo did. Everyone on Vitality had a good map today, but ZywOo was the only constant through it all. The young French star goes for 93 kills, 64 deaths, 90.5 ADR, and a 1.36 rating. That's a lot of stats thrown at you. When they needed him most, he stepped up. That's all you need to know. Vitality overcomes Big. We'll do battle again tomorrow. Any game could be the last time we see this Outsiders lineup playing together. They're looking to go out on a high note in Antwerp, but they'd have to get through G2 first. Outsiders looked great grabbing control of Inferno at the end of the first half. They took 4 of the last 5 rounds played, but the defense crumbled. It couldn't do anything when they switched side. Nico was a monster on map 1, and G2 take it 16-10. Outsiders would return the favor on map 2. Buster puts up the top performance, 23-11, 1.59 rating. Again, T-sides rule the day, which is a big 180 from the challenger stage, where we saw pros bemoaning the strength of defensive sides at this major. Outsiders closed out the second map in the second half on a 9-2 run despite a good performance from Monacy. Dust 2 would be the deciding map, and the first half had tension all over the place. Neither team able to gain momentum. The last 8 rounds of the half were exchanged back and forth between each team. Monacy and Nico would step up like flash and thunder. Alexi's calling worked Outsiders across the map. It's a strong victory for Dust 2 for G2, and they live on to tomorrow. For the series, Nico grabbed 67 frags, Monacy at 56. We might have a trend of star players bringing their A game when the pressure peaks. Imperial versus Cloud9. We'll see if that trend continues. This was the game of the day. Nothing I say here can recap this game properly. This is one you have to go back and watch the VODs and watch the magic for yourself. Overpass was the opening map of the series, and if you were around back in 2016, 2017, you've got a small corner of your brain dedicated to Fallen Overpass nostalgia. That pleasure setup would be lighting all over the place. Shiro ends the map with the most op kills, but as the game wore on, his impact dipped off. Fallen gets 35 kills across the map. He's the difference maker down the stretch. Cloud9 is the number 4 ranked team in the world. They won't go down easy. They take map 2. It wasn't even close. There wasn't even a chance for the Brazilian side. C9 have their way on offense and suffocate Imperial on defense. That takes us to map 3, which nobody was prepared for. Here's the spoiler. It's a 16-3 victory for Imperial. They lost the pistol and then took 10 rounds straight for themselves out of that scout performance that we just witnessed on the screen there. Everything would go Imperial's way. Even Vinny started styling with the AWP. Cloud9 was beat before the scoreboard showed 16. Listen to these 2 vintage stat lines. Fur with 79 kills and a 1.29 rating. Fallen 61 kills, 1.12 rating. Everyone dancing except for C9 at the end of that one. FaZe taking on Copenhagen Flames, another game with heavy favorites on paper, although the initiated would never dare underestimate Copenhagen Flames. FaZe got a wake-up call, more effective than coffee on the opening map. Roy and Nikodaz were gaming today. Top performances for the Flames on map 1 between those two. It was a tight affair down the stretch, but the difference maker was a 10-2 run on the defensive side for Copenhagen Flames. They take map 1 Inferno 16-13. It's a quick switch over to Ancient. Nikodaz is still putting up numbers 27 and 18, but FaZe had woken up as well. Mr. Consistent Rain, the man who has been here through it all, the OG FaZe member earns his paycheck today. 30 kills for him on map 2 and a 12-3 CT side for FaZe had them feeling comfortable. Flames still had a fight. They were down 3-14. They made the long comeback all the way back, but fall short 16-14. Map 2 to FaZe. We go the distance again. Another monster first half from FaZe put this out of reach. This time it was Rops leading the way. 25 kills and 1.71. FaZe has so much talent, so deep. They're up 13-2 at halftime, and this time they close it out easy. You could see a little bit of humor there as Rain loses a clutch by cratering. Unfortunate, but they still take the win. NIP FURIA. I had this as one of my underrated series of the day. I enjoy this FURIA team thoroughly, and I truly hope they'd find some success and breakthrough here against NIP, but the Ninjas had other things in mind. What a crazy level they're hitting right now. The first map really isn't much to say. It's a 16-2 win for NIP. Brolin and Plopsky got 36 apiece, 35 on res. Hampus would say after the series that this is the NIP lineup he wants to move forward with. That's big words with one of the best players of all time in Device sitting on the bench at this moment. Map 2 was a little bit more difficult for the Ninjas, but not by much. 16-10 victory for NIP. This would be our only 2-0 series of the day. Brolin again at the top of the scoreboard, so early returns on that pickup are looking good. Up to you to decide whether NIP is this good or whether FURIA just had an off day. It doesn't much matter at this point though, because the Ninjas are in the playoffs. They've qualified to the champion stage, and FURIA have one last chance tomorrow to avoid elimination. ENCE is one of the great revelations early on in 2022, an incredible rise of form these past few months. The major is all about peaking at the right moment, and what a test they have in the form of Heroic today placed in front of them. Both these teams still with things to prove. A lot of crazy overpass games played today. This one started with an 8-0 run for Heroic. It was followed by a 10-0 run by ENCE, and then another little mini run for Heroic just for good measure. Tess has had some monster impact down the stretch. He ends with a 1.31 rating. Heroic takes map 1 16-14, but ENCE would respond, as they always seem to do. So many eyes on Spinks for this ENCE team. Dia's actually just been a monster in plain sight. He goes for 24, Madden with 26. It's the ENCE defense making a difference, ending the map on a 9-1 run, 16-12 victory for ENCE. We go all the way one final time. And this time, it was ENCE to get the hot start and carried into halftime. 12-3 scoreline at the halftime break had Heroic falling to pieces, and all of Cadian's yelling and hype couldn't put them back together again. Madden would say after the series that Nuke was easy. It looked like it. Quite the series for Dia and Spinks, 68 and 61 kills respectively for those two guys. We'll touch on them again in just a minute. ENCE make it into the challenger stage. Heroic got one more chance. Whew. Well, that was a long day. Games in Antwerp ended well after midnight. None of these teams giving an inch on what could be some of their final days at the major, competing to move on to the next stage. Let's take a look back and recap the recap with the day's results. Navi Spirit are joined by FaZe, ENCE, and NIP. They're going to be in the champion stage. We've obviously already said goodbye to Liquid and Bad News Eagles. We say goodbye also to Big, Cloud9, and Outsiders, and obviously all eyes, I think, on Imperial going into tomorrow to see if that last dance can work a little bit more magic. That would be something special. Let's check out the top 5 players of the Legend stage so far. I mentioned we'd touch back on Spinks and Dia. Number 2 and 3, those guys have been beasts, but obviously the biggest surprise are Patsy for Spirit with how Dexter's been playing as well, and obviously Fur, resurgent performance, almost like it's gone back to 2016. Absolutely mental. They have a chance, Imperial, against Copenhagen Flames tomorrow. You can see it as we bring up the schedule. Absolutely wild. I think everyone is starting to get the feeling that we could see Imperial on the big stage. G2 FURIA. FURIA better have a better showing than they did today, or else they're gone for sure. Heroic and Vitality. That's a big boy matchup. Tough for all of them. Quick word from our sponsor, GG.BET. You can use the code HLTV for first bet insurance, an extra percentage on deposits depending on how close we are to the major final. More information is available in the YouTube description. Please gamble responsibly. Well, that's it. That's our show. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed day 3 of the Legend stage. One more day to figure out the rest of our playoff teams. One more day before we see the big playoff stage in Antwerp. We'll see you guys tomorrow.
Esports is what we live and breathe. For us, it's more than a game. It's a reality, where a group of letters can mean everything. Where Mirage is a place for bombs, battles, and glory, not an illusion. where the true heroes are those in front of the screen. GG.BET. This is real.